Can you solve this mystery? This is the story of the missing girl from a small village in Japan. All the clues are hidden in what I'm about to say. Once there was a girl named Madoka-chan who went to the park with her mother for a play date with her friend. While she was playing with her friend, her mom started chatting with the other girl's mom. When she looked back, Madoka was gone. The other girl said she went to play on the slides by herself and she hasn't seen her since. Madoka was reported as a missing person. Her parents and the police searched for months with no progress. 6 months later, her parents decided to try one last thing. They called a psychic. They brought in some of Madoka's belongings, and when the psychic touched them, she went into a trance. She shut her eyes and said, "Your daughter is still alive. Her heart still beats and her lungs still breathe. Her eyes gaze at a luxury home. Her stomach contains only the finest cuisine." Her parents hugged each other, ecstatic. They knew their daughter was still out there somewhere. They asked, "Where is she now?" The psychic hesitated for a moment before her eyes opened and she said, "Madoka-chan is all over the world." What happened to the missing girl? Let's see if you can solve this mystery.
I was basically an accident. When I was born, my 5 siblings were already in their late teens to early 20s and my parents were both 46. I was never abused in my childhood, but I was neglected and my entire family resented me. My parents didn't think they'd get pregnant again, but here we are. I was never looked after for by anyone and basically had to raise myself. No one ever played with me, spent time with me, or anything. They never bought me anything significant, it was always hand-me-downs. I realized this as I got older and I focused on myself. I thought that something was wrong with me because my siblings all received love and attention, so if I improved myself and did things for them, maybe they'd accept and love me too. I always got the best grades, made sure I did all my chores, always kept my room clean, and so on. However, nothing I did was ever good enough for them. We celebrated my father's birthday yesterday. My siblings and my mom wouldn't be around until we went out for dinner, so it was just me and him. I cooked him breakfast and lunch, did all the chores, and bought him a tie. I'm only 16 and on a budget. The most he came up with was a pathetic thank you. I could tell he wanted me to leave him alone, so I did. Finally, we all went out to dinner and they all had a good time while I sat in the corner ignored. This is how it usually is. When we got home, I broke down and started crying in front of them.
Part 3 about how I got caught hooking up with my stepson. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it was sent to me on Instagram. My stepson and I take the pregnancy test and it turns out it was positive. Well, I told my stepson that his dad wasn't able to have kids anymore. That's when he really flipped out. Then he tells me we should just tell his dad the truth. I told him let's not do anything until we actually confirm that I'm pregnant. We go to the doctor the next day and it turns out I'm not pregnant. But this made me realize that we needed to end the affair. Once we got home, I told him we needed to break things off. He begged me not to and we went to his bedroom. Not even 2 minutes later, his mother walks in. She catches us on his bed. She nearly has a heart attack, calls his dad and tells him everything. She took him out of the house and told me never to see him again. When my husband came back from his trip, he made me promise not to see my stepson again. I told him we should get a divorce, but he said no. Then he confessed to me that he's been having an affair too. Now he doesn't even let me leave the house anymore. I want a divorce. What should I do?
Am I the asshole for telling my husband he wasn't the one who experienced difficult pregnancy and birth? Me and my husband had our first baby together 3 months ago. We're overjoyed, but like any new parents, we're struggling. My husband recently started posting about how exhausted he is, how having a newborn is exhausting and draining. He posts about everything he does, talks about the fun and calm times he sacrifices, sleepless nights, but he goes to bed at 10 and wakes up at 9. He tells his friends about how demanding it is to be a new parent, completely acting like he's a single dad or something, which is strange because everyone around us noticed how he was acting. He does little compared to me. I do most of the hard work, from feeding, changing diapers, bathing, while he does simple occasional things like going to the store, cleaning the bathtub, or changing the sheets. I was berated by my own parents after seeing his posts. Yesterday, I talked to him about what he's been doing and how he was exaggerating with his posts about his contribution in both our son's care and house chores. I told him he's out there on social media complaining all the time, so much that everyone thinks I'm sleeping 24 hours a day and doing absolutely nothing. He argued that he wasn't. Am I the asshole for announcing my pregnancy first? I am 26 and married to my husband and have an older sister who is 27 who I'll call Kay. For some background, Kay was the golden child, but my parents rapidly changed their tune when she failed university and started a party lifestyle for a bit, no longer the case. Suddenly, I was a favorite because I finished school and had a moderately successful life. I think it's BS that my parents have or had favorites, and I largely keep my distance, but it's something that has bothered Kay a lot. So, my husband and I recently got pregnant, surprise, and though I keep a healthy distance from my parents, we still talk. Boundaries are really important to have with them because they will trample over your entire life and privacy. COVID restrictions are a thing, and I'm not big on parties anyway, so I decided to just tell my family about the latest news during a monthly family video chat last Friday. Once everyone had done the preliminary catching up, my husband and I said we had some news, and then I said I was pregnant. My parents, sisters, and grandmother lost it, screaming and laughing and crying in joy. This is the first grandchild, great-grandchild, niece, or nephew, so they understandably had pretty dramatic. He argued that he wasn't lying. I said, well, he wasn't the one who went through the difficult birth experience, that I was struggling for 9 months of intense symptoms and my birth was extremely difficult. I've never experienced anything more difficult in my life, and I'm still recovering. I'm not trying to minimize his struggle, but whatever he's dealing with, I'm suffering 10 times more than him despite the physical and emotional stress. I keep my mouth shut and just get things done. He snapped, saying he couldn't believe I made it all about me and that he's in the right to be able to vent and say whatever he wants whenever he pleases. I asked him what's up with the attitude. He's making me look bad to everyone and that is not okay. I asked him please stop or get himself some therapy if he's feeling overwhelmed. He looked at me shocked and then argued that I needed to stop policing his words and opinions and trying to tell him what to feel and how to deal with it. He went into the office and minutes later I saw a new post from him talking about me thinking he's not doing enough and acting as if me going through childbirth makes me a better parent than he is. I thought he was just venting, but I had family and friends reaching out asking if my husband is okay and why I was making him overwork and not giving him a break.
If you want to tan this summer, don't do what she did. Once there was a young woman who hated how pale she was, so she came up with an idea to get the perfect tan. But she could have never known the horrifying consequences her idea would lead to. She tried to go to all the tanning salons near her, but they would only allow her to tan for 30 minutes at a time. So she booked one session and afterwards thought that she still looked really pale. That's when she came up with the idea. She would book 30-minute appointments in every tanning salon in her city, back to back. She spent the next 4 days going from one tanning salon to another, and she finally began to see a difference. But this wasn't enough for her. So she went to a store and bought a special brand of tanning lotion. This lotion was made to increase your skin's sensitivity to light. She thought this would help her get the perfect tan. So she put it all over herself and let it soak. Then she made another set of tanning appointments. Later that day, the staff at the local tanning salon noticed the smell of something burning. They went to investigate and was horrified to find one of the tanning beds had caught fire. That's where the woman was found. She had literally cooked herself alive inside the tanning bed. This is why you should always pay attention to details. A woman was brushing her hair when she found a little bump at the back of her head, so she called her husband to have him check it out for her. He said it looks like a button. It's small, round, hairless, and flat at the top. He joked around it with her, asking, "What do you think would happen if I pressed it?" Then he did, and the woman instantly leaned up and gave him a kiss. Then the husband kept pressing it as a joke, but something went wrong. It seemed like he pressed it all too many times, and a cool numbness spread down the woman's neck, around her arms and her legs. Her eyes automatically shut and her vision went black. A while later, the woman woke up and learned that she had fainted. The husband kept apologizing with tears in his eyes as if it was all his fault. Eventually, they both went about their lives and tried to forget about this incident, but the woman just couldn't, because afterwards, she came across a photo of her family in the living room. It was a photo of her and her husband's wedding propped up on a ceramic urn. She looked closer at the photo of her own face. She's smiling as if she's the happiest girl in the world, but there's a small scar under her left eyebrow, a scar that she now didn't have.
My cousin Millie is 30 years old and is an ER nurse. Her birthday was a few days ago and we planned a birthday prank which was leaving a fake snake on her cake. All fun and games because we do this every year to every family member. Well, apparently this year Millie didn't want it, so she was pretty pissed at the fact that we didn't. Now, a few days ago while I was in school, I got a call from Millie during lunch. I thought it would be her saying she's picking me up, but it wasn't. She proceeded to tell me that my mother had passed away in a car accident. My heart dropped and I felt like puking. My mother and I don't have the best relationship, but I still love her. Millie began to tell me the details of the death and what exactly happened to the point I hung up on her and called my mother. My mom, who was supposedly at work as a nurse, didn't pick up and I ended up running to the bathroom. I called my dad, bawling my eyes out and telling him what happened. He didn't understand what I was talking about because he called my mom right before I called. He made me explain everything and understandably he was pissed. He picked me up from school and called my mom in the car just to prove that she was alive and okay. That night, my aunt, who's not Millie's mom, called a meeting to her house and we all talked it out. They were all pretty much disgusted with Millie as she tried to justify her choices, but she ended.
So there's this old guy in my neighborhood and he lives in like some small rinky-dinky house, but every week this guy's driving a different brand new Ferrari, like a different Ferrari every week. So the whole entire town, including myself, thinks this guy's in the mafia, so I decided to do a little private investigation. Lucky for me, I actually work for the IRS and I was able to get his bank statements, and this guy literally has hundreds of thousands of dollars moving in and out of his bank account per week. So then I looked at his tax returns and his bank account and it didn't add up. Like he had a lot more money in the bank than he was actually claiming. So I called this guy up and I said, "Listen, sir, you need to come down to my office and we need to discuss your recent transactions because something's not adding up." So the following week, the guy comes to my office and he brought his lawyer with him. So I straight up told the old man, I said, listen, sir, it came to my attention that you have a lot of money going in and out of your account, and it really doesn't match your tax returns. Like, for example, last week you had $100,000 enter your bank account. Like, where are you getting this money from? So the old man looks at me and goes, it's a simple explanation. I'm a gambler. And I look at him, I go, you're making $100,000 a week playing slots and blackjack and craps. Like, you're making that much.
Part 2 of how I told my family I wish they'd given me up. I don't know what triggered it, but I started crying. Maybe it was because of them being so happy together. When they asked me what happened, I just blew up at them and told them how I felt about my entire childhood. I told them how they never showed me any kind of love or affection, among other things. I ended up by saying I wish they had aborted me if they hate me so much, or could have given me up for adoption so they could live their lives without me. My oldest sister started to say something, but I ran up to my room, closed the door, and went to sleep listening to music as they knocked on my door. When I faced my family the next day, the first thing they all did was give me a big hug, which honestly surprised me. It was the first time in years they showed me any affection. They also prepared me food, and after eating, we all talked. My oldest nephew, who is 2 years younger than me, stumbled across my post and showed it to my sister. They all apologized for how they treated me. They confirmed that I was an accident and none of them wanted to deal with another baby, so I messed up everything. But they didn't word it like that. Their reasoning was that I always did so well in life, so they were able to ignore me and pretend like I wasn't there, basically. They said they would do their best from now on to make me feel as part of the family. I thought about it long and hard and decided I'll try to form some kind of bond with them if it's even possible. Mainly, I'm going to live for myself and work towards
just tell my family about the latest news during a monthly family video chat last Friday. Once everyone had done the preliminary catching up, my husband and I said we had some news, and then I said I was pregnant. My parents, sisters, and grandmother lost it, screaming and laughing and crying in joy. This is the first grandchild, great-grandchild, niece, or nephew, so they understandably had pretty dramatic reactions. Once things calmed down a bit, I asked Kate if she was still there, and she said yes, but she had to go and deal with something else. I thought it was odd, but didn't give it much further thought. Later, I get a text from Kay saying that she was going to make a pregnancy announcement then too, but that I had ruined it. I should have asked her specifically before making the announcement because she, as the firstborn, should have been the one to have the first grandchild, and that my child would get all the attention and love and hers would get second rate. I sent her a text saying that I had no clue she was pregnant and congratulating her, and that I was so sorry she didn't get to make the announcement when she wanted to. I then, possibly quite stupidly, asked her when her due date was, and Kay said, "Don't worry, you're first," and has not answered anything since. So, am I the asshole?